So, I'll call the meeting to order since I'm the only board member here. We have Sue, Jean, and Jack on Zoom. Bruce, I believe, as well. He said he may cut in and out depending on his connection. So at least we have a quorum, which is great, and Don is not joining us tonight.
Don was not able to make it tonight?
Don was not able to make it tonight.
Okay.
So. So let me see. Call the meeting to order. Minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody have anything they want to add or change from the minutes from the last meeting? Board members, no, I see no hands.
Jean has her hand raised. Let's see.
Jean does. Yeah, so Jean, was there something you wanted to add?
I move them.
Move that we accept them?
Yeah.
All right. I second, all in favor. Can you move your little thing so I can see people? Aye, hands, thank you. Awesome. All right, minutes from last meeting are approved. First thing on the agenda was a public hearing for the Brown subdivision. So I move that we open the public hearing. Do I have a second? Yes. All right, all in favor, saw hands. Is there anyone here to speak on the subdivision, the Brown subdivision? No, going once, going twice. I move to close the public hearing. Do I have a second? Yes, from Jean, all in favor? Aye, excellent. Public hearing is closed. Before we move on with the rest of the agenda items, was there anything that any board members wanted to add or amend in the agenda? Meant to say that a minute ago and forgot. No? Okay. Well, pipe up later if there is something that comes to mind. All right, so as far as the Brown subdivision, the next item on the agenda was to deal with part 2, part 3 of seeker for the subdivision. Does anybody want to discuss any environmental impacts before we go through part 2 of the subdivision? No, not seeing any hands. Okay, so why don't we just go through the list here? And raise any objections if you have any. So will the proposed action create material conflict with an adopted land use or zoning regulations? No. Will the proposed action result in a change in use or intensity of use of land? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No. Will the proposed action have an impact on environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walking? No. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy if it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation and renewable energy opportunities? No, because it's just vacant land. There are no proposed houses or structures at this time. So will the proposed action impact existing public water supplies, public wastewater treatment facilities? No. Will the proposed action impair character or quality of impact historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in natural resources? No. And will the proposed action result in the increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, and drainage problems? No. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. Were there any items that you guys wanted to discuss more, or you saw any issues with? Gene? You should be able to unmute, right?
Yeah, I did. Hi, my only question is, has Mr. Brown made a decision about, and maybe this isn't where I should ask this question, about the number of development units per,
Parcel.
Yeah, per parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think either,
It's not a secret question though, right?
it is not a secret question.
Okay,
Um,
I'll
I
wait.
think. Yeah, I guess, all right, yeah, let's finish seeker and then we can address that question. So I move that we declare neg deck for the subdivision, and I can fill out part 3 for the assessment form. Do I have a second? We have multiple seconds. Everybody raised their hand, so I assume all in favor, aye, excellent. So that's a neg deck. So as far as the question of development rights, has anyone been in touch with him about that?
We haven't really, I just wanted to add, we've been trying to figure out exactly how it works. So one question I had was, in Mr. Brown's proposal has lots A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And then the remaining,
Right.
the remaining part, which is part, let's see, yeah.
So
It's the
because
remaining part of that lot.
because Crichton is on here, why don't we see if we can just ask him directly?
Yep.
So Crichton, I assume, feel free to chime in, I assume the intention is a single dwelling unit per lot for A, B, and C. And that any residual development units would be allocated to the rest of the property? Do you understand the question? And do you have thoughts on that?
I think I do. I mean, my intention is to sell those 3 lots. So once a lot is sold, I don't see that it could be subdivided again under your zoning. So
Right,
what I would expect is that the people would be entitled to, build a unit and an auxiliary unit if that's what they wanted, per lot. Is that what your question is?
Sort of, and I actually I have a question that was brought up by him. So if there's a primary unit and then there's an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, is that 2 development units or is that?
No.
No,
That's
That's
one.
one.
ADU is allowed as a part of a development
Okay.
unit.
It's not the
And-
principal use.
That's what I understood, yeah.
And is a duplex would be 1 or 2?
Have to,
It just,
have to go look at my book, but I think a duplex is 1.
That's a good question you just asked.
Okay, I just wanna because in assigning units, we're obviously restricting somewhere, we're restricting how much development can happen. Which may be the intention and exactly what we want, it's just, I just wanna make sure everybody's on the same page as far as understanding what the allocations will limit or not limit. So if you have a 2, I don't remember, they're like 2-acre lots roughly?
They're almost 3
They're
acres.
almost 3?
Right.
So
I did want to clarify that point that, the total lot, if I got it right, is 52.92 acres. And a lot of that is in the conservation easement, but that 52, so the way the a lot subdivision of 52 acres would provide for 17 development
Right.
units. So that's sort of like the maximum potential. It doesn't mean they have to all be used.
Is what's under conservation already restricted as far as no development is allowed?
I believe that's correct,
There.
right, Creighton?
That's correct. Yeah, there's a Finger Lakes Land Trust conservation easement on there that's been, I did about 3 years ago. I believe I sent that information to you all.
Yeah,
And so so from the blue and white diagrammatic map that you sent, Creighton, once the 3 lots A, B, and C are cut out, that in my calculation leaves about 7 acres of non-land trust easement land that doesn't have a designation on it. And I'm presuming, and that I wanted to ask you about, make sure that it's clear. So in your blue and white map, there's a line between the Finger Lakes Land Trust area and the no land trust easement area. But that line is not intended as a lot subdivision line. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay,
okay,
so that line's not it's,
well,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, if we, in theory, if we say allocated 2 development rights or units or whatever you want to call them,
units.
to each of these lots, A, B, and C, you could actually build, because you have, they could actually build 2 houses or residences at any point, correct?
Yes,
But
And
isn't that true only until someone buys one? Then when they buy it, that's what they have to, do they still have?
nope, those units go with the lot, so whatever, so once somebody buys the lot and it has a certain number of units allocated,
Yeah,
they have those units.
so you, Creighton, as the landowner right now, at the time that we passed the zoning law, you will be making the first decision with the land subdivision about the distribution of development units. And it can be anywhere from 0 to the maximum allowed for a lot.
Okay.
So that's why I was just saying, like, not to advise you in any way, but since there are 17 development units that are available, and a large portion of the land is already under Finger Lakes Land Trust, so that can't be developed. It seems like just to not restrict yourself or people potentially buying the land too much, you know, it seems worthwhile to maybe give 2 development rights to each of the parcels or something along those lines. That's only 6, and you still have 11 for the remaining land, which isn't even much.
I'm curious what Gene's hand is up about.
It's up to you. Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we actually considered this when we were on the zoning commission about a piece of the land that was already given to a land trust. I just don't really remember that. So if that were the case, from what Mark said, there'd be about 16 acres left, which would be 5 development units. So I think that that's a question that, Mark, it would be worth asking our attorney, or because I don't recall it well enough to make sure that we're doing that correctly.
So I did follow up with Nan
Oh, good.
about this question.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, I mentioned that there's this Finger Lakes Land Trust easement area. I didn't know at the time whether it was separately divided into a separate lot or not, but a lot of it is not. 37 acres is not. So that clearly, in subdividing this particular lot, that could satisfy, it more than satisfies the 50% requirement, for instance, for a conservation subdivision.
Right.
So it does apply to the calculation.
Okay.
And to my mind, but it also, that area of land would also be used in the calculation of total development units, because that's how you would do it
Conservation.
if you were assigning a conservation easement from the get-go, that's how you would do it. So.
Okay. Then I agree that that there'd be plenty of units, and you could, and Mr. Brown could decide to give each of these 2 or even 3, because they're 3 acres, and so you would have the ability to have 3 units on it for someone in the future. But that's his decision.
Right, that's correct.
Yep.
Yeah. And I noticed that each of the lots is approximately 3 acres, and I just want to, has been I don't think it's the case here necessarily, but we don't have a 3 acre minimum.
Right.
In the ag rural zone. So those lots, because the total acreage is much larger, those lots could have been 1 acre or just enough to support water and septic.
Exactly.
As long as the average of all the lots subdivided comes out to 3 or more.
When does Mr. Brown have to decide that? Is that a right now thing, like in this meeting, or when does he make that decision?
He can decide whenever he wants.
Like,
I mean,
just prior to the sale?
no, it needs to be, well, no, it needs to be decided before it's filed with the county.
Oh,
Right.
right.
So you can decide, Mr. Brown, you can decide now, and we could approve the subdivision as you want it. If you want time to think about it, we can approve it with the condition that you're gonna give us the development units at some point soon, so we can note it, because whatever's filed with the county has to have those on it.
Yeah, my initial answer was a little glib. I didn't mean to do that. So I do think the development units should be assigned with the approval of the review board. When the review board approves a lot subdivision, then the applicant has 62 days to file that with the county. Otherwise, they have to bring it back to us and do it again. So, so I agree with, I think the question you were asking is, I didn't mean that he could do it anytime, and then we could approve the subdivision, so.
In the future, as applications are dropped off at town, it would be great to have this conversation so that it's
absolutely.
very clear what we are approving from then on.
Yeah, Mr. Brown is enjoying the conversation, the growing phases along with us. Isn't this fun?
So,
Yeah.
Crichton, do you have a preference with how you would like to allocate the development units? Or would you-
To be clear, what I want to end up with, I mean, I put it in this form because it wasn't clear to me whether you were going to accept the land trust land as giving me building units or whatever. What I first proposed is what you just said would be fine, which was 1 acre lots surrounding a common area. But then from what I gathered, that wasn't going to be acceptable. So I changed it to 3 acre parcels, 3 of them. And I thought if I went over 4 parcels, it was going to trigger a whole thing with the county, which apparently is not the case either. But
Well, in the old subdivision,
what I really want to end up with is these 3-acre lots and a central space that is a common area that won't be built on at all. So at some point, I would like to create those other 2 lots, the common area and one more lot. But what I want to do right now, in part because I have a buyer for one of these lots and he's anxious to get going, and so am I. I don't know. I've been doing this for a long time. So are you how many building units? You're saying that there are 17 now
Yes.
that I would have?
Yes.
I would like to assign 3 to each lot. And the central lot that I don't, which I'm going to come back to you for, I don't want to probably put any building units on, but I would like to think about that in the future. So what I'd like to do now is just, is do 3 building units per each of these 3 lots, and take it at that, just for expediency, for my sake.
yep. Sounds good.
So
So that's 9, so that leaves 8 for the rest of the parcel. And you
yeah,
can,
and here's
think about it and do what you want.
Yeah, and I did ask, the question had come up, I was like, well, when you subdivide land, you can't create an unbuildable lot, but my question to the planner was, could you assign 0 development units? And she said, yeah, you could do that if you wanted to. So I'm just mentioning this because of what you just said about this central, green space or whatever you're calling it. Under our zoning law, you would be allowed 17 development units. My understanding, if you did this, you would be restricting below that by 8 units. And so I think that, yeah. So
I think you're confusing it.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think he's allocated 3 per lot,
okay,
and then the 8 are for whatever else he
Okay,
wants to do.
that sounds good.
And
I agree.
let's just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. I agree.
Yeah.
Question of you?
And so, okay, so we have that information. Any other questions? So Jean, you still have your hand up. I don't know if that's from before.
Didn't really mean to have my hand up. I do have a motion, if you're ready for a motion at some point.
I just wanted to point out that we did get a response from the county as far as 239 review, and they were fine with. They were fine.
Yes.
So yeah, go ahead. Sue, do you have, question?
Just a quick note. If for future reference, could we somewhere note how we're handling this or how it is handled when there is a conservation easement? So we have this precedent to refer back to. Maybe there's a logistics for doing that automatically, but I can see this coming up again in a couple of years and like, well, how do we handle it? So I just don't know if there's a way within the notation of either the zoning law or our records for future reference as to how it's handled. And also I wondered if it would be a helpful exercise to show how the number of units has been, just for the public to see how the number of units was determined in this case, as it's also new for us.
Yeah, well, the the survey, so the final plat, the survey should show the new parcels. And then on that, I assume it has to designate how many development units it has. And in the future, I would say that we're not gonna accept any, we're not even gonna start reviewing any subdivisions that don't already have that allocated, so that conversation has happened.
That's right.
And that everybody has a clear idea of what's being talked about before we even start reviewing.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, great.
And I don't know if it's exactly an answer to your first question, but I did notice that the survey map in the application materials, it does ask that any land that is restricted has a covenant on it or a conservation easement should be delineated in the survey map. And I think that would be helpful.
Okay, I think it actually was delineated in the survey, was it not?
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure, Creighton. I didn't know. So
Yeah. Any other questions?
I have just a question about what the process is for registering this with the county. Do I get someone to come to town hall and pick up paperwork and take it to the county, or is there some other?
So at this point, what you just said a few minutes ago, Creighton needs a survey map with the plat notes.
Right.
That shows the distribution of 3 development units on each of these 3 parcels and the 8 units on the remainder. And that would be done by a surveyor, I guess. And then.
Well, don't we already have a survey.
Do they?
We already have a survey.
Yeah, I have a surveyor plat
It doesn't
there,
have
but
the-
it doesn't designate the
Right.
number of units on it.
Why can't we just write the number of units on here and then
Okay.
approve that? And then once we have an approved document, then yes, you would have to have somebody, if you're not gonna be here, you would have to have somebody come and get it and take it to the county. And file it with the county.
Okay, and where exactly does it get filed with the county? At the assessor's office, or?
So that's a good question. So the way that they've explained it, at first, the survey map needs to go to the assessor's office. They check it to make sure that it has the appropriate approvals from the town. And you get a stamp on it from the assessor's office and then file it with the county clerk. So that's what Jay Franklin said, so.
So how long will your approval process take? Is that happening tonight, or is that somewhere off in the future?
In the next couple days, if we confirm that I just want to confirm it's an actual survey. And then we can write in the development units and I can stamp it.
Okay. Great. One other question is, just so I'm clear, so these building units would each entitle someone to build a residence and a auxiliary structure also?
Each of them, yes. Each
Okay,
unit.
all righty, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Otherwise, I would say we're ready to approve the subdivision.
Okay, I have a resolution.
Excellent. Do
Um,
you- Yeah,
whereas
you
the
have-
town, and I've sent this out to people, I just made a few corrections in it, but whereas the Town of Caroline Review Board has held a public hearing on a minor subdivision of a 15.5 acre lot parcel, part of 27 dot dash 1 dash 4 at the southwest corner of Downey and South Roads at 7 p.m. on January 7th, 2025. And whereas the review board has reviewed the information from that public hearing and all of the materials submitted by the applicant and the Section 239 review from Tompkins County Planning and has found that the materials are complete, therefore be it resolved. The review board approves the minor subdivision request of Mr. Creighton Brown, who is assigning 3 development units to each of the 3 new parcels, and that the subdivision plat has been approved by the Town of Caroline Review Board on, and I think that date has to be added
When I do it, yes.
when you do it, with the following information not included in the review: proposed use for each lot, the proposed location of any structures, a septic permit, water supply information, and driveway locations. That's the end. Those things that I added there were suggested by Don, so that it was clear that if someone wanted to put in a building permit, they would have to get those things.
Yep.
Okay.
I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, excellent.
Craig, can I ask a question?
Yep.
A few minutes ago, you said, like, you wanted to verify that this is I guess asking about the process for Creighton from right now.
Yeah, he's got land surveys here. So I'm fine with writing in the units on here and stamping this.
Great.
So, like, most of the surveys we get are large format. Is that gonna be okay with the county? So
It should be, it's still has a scale.
Yeah, it's got the scale.
I mean, it's got a scale, it's got who the surveyor is, it's dated, it's got, so it should be fine.
Okay,
Yeah, it's got a tax parcel on the acreage for each of them. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so next item on the agenda, the Hammond minor subdivision. I don't remember where we're at with this. I think the first thing we need to do is actually declare lead agency. Because I don't think we have yet, because we haven't done anything in seeker. So I move that we declare lead agency. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so. Has this been sent to the county?
no, because it hasn't been approved. The full application hasn't been approved yet, but it will.
As a full application?
Right. So,
Okay.
figured after this meeting.
So I would say, are the applicants here?
No, I don't.
No. Okay,
Jesse, is Mr. Hammond on the meeting remotely?
No, I don't see him.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Then I would say let's get the public hearing set for next month. So let me see, Gene, you had a resolution, whereas the Town of Caroline Review Board has reviewed the application materials, the environmental review, and has determined materials submitted by the applicant are complete, other than the Section 239 review by Tompkins County and the number of development units for each parcel and a certified survey. Therefore, be it resolved. Are there any questions from board members as far as, or items we want to bring up as far as, other things we want to see for this application, or do you feel like it's complete application at this time?
I think that this was the one that that Don thought was landlocked. There was a landlocked unit, which parcel, but I don't think it is landlocked. Remember there was that kind of a road that was split between two sections?
This is the landlocked, yeah.
Those.
This is the same.
Look under the notes, Craig, note number 2.
No, number 2, parcel 7A is to be consolidated with adjacent lands of tax parcel. Right. So it's not landlocked because it's being added to the other parcel.
Correct.
Right.
Driveway goes right.
And so it, 7C, yeah, it goes to the right, yeah.
What, I remember looking at this map. What was the problem even if it was landlocked? What, that we couldn't, they couldn't, oh, it was, that they couldn't access it, right, without trespassing, right, or something?
Right.
Yeah, but it's clearly not, okay, got it.
Yeah,
talk
you can't really create a parcel that, well, you can create a parcel that's landlocked, but
You need an easement, right?
yeah, you would need an easement or you can't develop it, which also is kind of fine, but anyway, at this good point taken, it's being combined with the parcel next to it, so it's not landlocked. Just lot C and lot 7C and 7B are basically the individual ones that are being set aside. And both have, geez Louise, both have street frontage on Blackman Hill Road.
Right.
Okay, I agree with that. Other questions or comments about the project and materials submitted so far? No? Then I move that we set a public hearing for the next meeting, which is February 4th, 7 PM.
Right.
Second, do I see a second? Excellent. All in favor, everybody raise their hand. Great. So public hearing, lead agency, and so I was planning just like for the Brown subdivision, I was planning on doing the public hearing and then part 2, part 3 of seeker after that for this subdivision next meeting. Between now and then, it would be great to get how the development rights are being, or development
I think
unit.
that's addressed under the notes, number 1. The Brown
3 total development units
and
eligible to be created, 3 lots, each 1 unit, 1 units.
Yeah, there it is.
There's, yeah, 3s, I'm just doing math. Okay,
It's around-
so does that,
Around 9, yeah.
so that's interesting because it's being, 7A is being combined with the other parcel. It gives an extra development unit to that other parcel.
I don't think so. I think the development unit should be confined to the original parcel.
Well, but this is being combined with that.
Right.
So you have 3 units, 1 per,
Oh, I see what you're saying, and this one
One
has
per-
one already. And that is.
I mean, I don't see any issue with that. I'm
Yeah, I
just-
don't either.
Good
Yep.
luck documenting how that works.
Yep.
I don't really
I mean-
understand, but okay. Okay, any other questions or comments on this project before we move on? Board, no.
Nope.
All right, next up is Distributed Sun. Yeah, I guess, there was a lot of back and forth. I'm, kind of in between meetings. I'm just gonna say, is there any revised or updated materials that you would like to share at this time?
Chet provided a couple last week, I
So,
think.
Yes, thank you, Craig. So we received correspondence from you and Don on behalf of the board, and there were a couple key points brought up. So we replied to that in correspondence form, and I think one key factor that led to a revision in some of our documentation, actually, sorry, there'll be two. The first one I'll mention is the request for aeration prior to operations of the facility. As Don pointed out, we had mentioned it as an element to perform in decommissioning, and there's no need for us to wait that long. So we put it into our operations and maintenance plan in it's called revision 1. So that was submitted last week or so. So that was one thing that was updated. Another key element that was updated just before Christmas in the melee there was a clarification of the subdivision map. And we had the subdivisions forms signed, but they were formally submitted then. So the subdivision map now more tightly reflects what it is we are trying to do. And I believe I saw Bob Ray there at the meeting. And Bob, I saw your message today, and your interpretation was correct. So what we're trying to say is that let me get the parcel numbers up, but there will be both of the 2 out of the 3 subject properties will go from 1 parcel to fully to a 3. And let me get you just those parcel numbers as we talk. But that map was submitted and is part of the record on time. So parcel A is, that's not a great copy.
And parcel A is the
northernmost.
Yeah, it's not being subdivided.
Correct. It's the northernmost.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's why there's
Bob's got it
only
there.
2. And that's why there's only 2 subdivision applications submitted.
Correct. Parcel A is not being subdivided. Parcels B and parcel C are going from 1 parcel to 3 parcels.
Yeah.
And so we've got Mr. Michael Pitchell's agent signed it for B. Mr. Tavelli signed for C. And to sort of follow up on the discussion that was happening with Mr. Brown's subdivision, I've had conversations with our landowners about how they want to allocate the development units. I've got a clear picture from Mr. Tavelli, but I'm waiting for his letter. I'm still working on Mr. Pitchell's team to confirm what I think they want, but needless to say, I think what's coming is the parcel for Mr. Tavelli that hosts his home parcel is likely to retain all the development units possible. And similarly for the Mr. Pitchell's property, it's likely to be B1 with the most road frontage to retain those development units. So, but that material was submitted in a timely fashion. The update to the operations and maintenance plan incorporated some of Mr. Barber's comments, and then as a draft resolution, the board said last time that was helpful to see. So I've got a draft resolution for consideration for the project. But I guess a point of order: are we supposed to be declaring a public hearing at some point?
Yeah, so that's why I was, that was gonna be my next comment, was we should do, if the other board members agree, we could set a public hearing for the subdivision for next meeting. And I guess I'm a little fuzzy on the process. Could we do the subdivision and site plan review public hearing at the same time?
They should be separate public hearings, but you can do it.
But we can open and close them at the same time.
Yep.
I'm inclined to set both of those public hearings for the next meeting then.
And the 2 subdivisions technically should be separate.
Should be technically separate. Right.
So I guess I'm a little confused because at the last meeting, I understood we were setting a public meeting for this meeting. Did I misunderstand that?
We, from my recollection, we didn't set any public hearing for this meeting.
They had a previous public hearing for the environmental review.
We already had one for the environmental review, the meeting before last one where we gave the neg deck for the environmental review seeker.
Yes, I remember that public hearing. I am coming around to understand that when we set the last meeting, we did not set a public hearing, which that's a little frustrating, but obviously public hearings need to come with advance notice periods and all that. So
Right. And then, yeah, anyway,
Gene?
Dean, you have a question or comment? Can you unmute her?
I don't know what's going on. Let's see.
The agenda for tonight does say there's a public hearing.
Oh, it does? Oh, that's the public hearing on Creighton Brown's
That's,
subdivision.
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's the public
Okay.
hearing at the beginning, that was for
Sorry,
the
didn't understand.
Brown subdivision. No, I don't remember discussing it at the last meeting, and at the last meeting, because the maps had to be reworked and we hadn't seen them at all, I wouldn't have set a public hearing.
Yeah, you couldn't.
So based on previous discussion, we did get the updated maps in 15 days before the meeting. And obviously timing around Christmas was a bit challenging. So I mean, we can't go back in time at this moment to I don't know if we can reset it, but I'm just
So Chet,
Yeah.
I think so yes, between the last meeting and this meeting, you submitted the revised maps for the subdivisions. But the review board can only set the public hearing once they meet to review those maps and consider the application complete, is my understanding. So,
Yep. So, sorry if you misunderstood.
so I guess a separate point of order. Obviously, there was this miscommunication about the subdivision part. You know, what I've written up is a joint resolution for all three parts we've been going for. And I guess right now I hear you considering the public hearing for site plan review and special use permit to also go to next month. Is that, I mean, I guess my question to you is did you have a full package last month, or what am I trying to ask? Would it be possible to advance with the site plan review and special use permit without the subdivision?
oh, without the subdivision.
Question, I don't think so. I think we need, I guess I would have to look back at the law, this, solar farm law to confirm, but I think site plan review and subdivision would have to be approved first before special permit would be allowed.
So you're saying subdivision is a prerequisite for site plan review?
It's prerequisite for a special permit.
Right.
Yeah, subdivision.
But site plan
can go
review.
Simultaneously. right?
Yeah, like they can go in congruently at the same time.
All three here, you're saying?
At all three being all three what? Special permit?
The site plan is.
Site plan and subdivision would have to be approved first and then
Yeah.
special permit.
But could they be in the
It
same-
could be at the same meeting. It all depends on.
I do think that's what we were frankly anticipating today, and if it is being put off, hope that may be considered in the future.
Yeah, if I guess if it's going to be put off, is it possible to do it before next month's plan review board meeting? I think we've mentioned this in the past that NYSERDA has expiring incentives, and
Mhm.
those continue to be consumed. Yeah, if we're not going to take action tonight, then I would ask whether it's possible to call a separate meeting prior to the next planned review board meeting.
We could, yeah, Sue, hold on. Sue, comment? Do you have a comment or question on that? No.
I was just going to try to speak for Don in his absence via his email from January 5th with his opening line that it's his hope that the review board does not consider this resolution proposed by D. Sun until we hold a public hearing on the site plan as required by section 773 of the zoning law. So just speaking on his behalf to put his input there.
Yeah, I hear that. So yeah, my request is
Right.
we can pull another meeting in rather than wait till whatever that next one would be.
We can discuss it as a board and see if we can find a time. To be honest, my calendar is not very friendly to additional meetings, but we can try. I'm not gonna do it right here, right now, though. Partly because we need input from Don. Don's not here, and I think Bruce fell off at some point as well.
Bruce is still on the Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, okay. But,
He's there.
I think it would probably be the best use of our time to set public hearings for next month or next meeting, I should say, and see if we can find a sooner time to have that meeting, and then also any other discussion of materials that board members would like to discuss to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as getting into the next meeting.
Craig, can I give an update on SWIP?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
Okay, so, I submitted for 239 review and, informed that we needed to have an engineering,
Well, we need 239 review before we can approve anything.
yeah, so anyway, we need an engineering review of the SWIP plan, so I reached out to Soil and Water.
Yep,
They said they could do it in March.
yep.
So I reached out to TG Miller, which is our engineering firm, and so they are doing it now. I expect to have that within the next week or so. And then we can share that, but they are giving it a look.
So TJ Miller's reviewing the SWIP. Now, I mean, we can approve the project with a condition for the SWIP being approved before permit. That's fine. What's the county's? Would the county give us a final statement of 239 review without the SWIP being reviewed?
Abigail said she said no, but I can ask again, but yeah, she said we need to have an approved
Yeah.
SWIP.
So
So.
She's saying it needs to be approved
By, it needs to be reviewed by.
review.
So yeah, that's I think a very key difference. The reviewed, I think, is normal and par for the course. Approved is a higher bar, and frankly, a bar I believe to be too high, right? That means we need to be design ready, have every channel width primed and ready to go. Yeah, I mean that
Okay, that's
something that we would like to have done right as we're applying for building permits in case we find some road needs to shift 15 feet and that adjusts where a swale goes, etc. So I've certainly had county review boards look at the SWIPs, but
Okay.
The approved version would be an unexpectedly high bar. So
that was my language fault, I believe, that I
Okay.
think the word was reviewed. So sorry about that.
and
So-
I've to Craig's point, I've also seen other resolutions for site plan reviews and special use permits to include any the language of any requirements from the county 239 ML review, and I will say the word requirement really needs in there because I've often seen recommendations.
Yep.
We do our best to incorporate, but requirements would be a word if we put it in the condition.
Okay.
Have that be
So
completed.
Yeah, great. So I will follow up with the county. So what I'm hearing, and maybe I misunderstand, is that normally you see this happen later in the process?
The
Approval.
SWIP
the approval
approval
of the
happens
SWIP.
to us
Okay.
right at building permit phase when we've got everything down to the inch.
I got you.
And that is coordinated. The DEC is actually the entity to issue. It's the GP 002, I think, the general permit for construction and stormwater protection.
Yeah.
So DEC will review it in prior to the town reviewing anything, from the broader site plans from a building and electrical permit perspective. So we're not at the building and electric permit phase, so I believe
Right.
the detailed review comes later and approval comes later. People,
Okay.
including your board and your town personnel, should certainly review it and ask any questions, but we're not expecting an approval until we're ready to apply for a building permit.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
I just wanted to get some clarity on, your resolution along with your responses, obviously, I feel like covered a lot of the conditions that we had brought up. And you had mostly agreed to. So I felt comfortable with, the majority of what you had said in your proposed resolution. I did want a little clarity on the highway department. In that, typically, because you're on a county road, then the county highway department has say as far as where culverts go, the size and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to make sure that those conversations that have been had and that, you're gonna have to pull a permit or I forget what it's called with them at some point. But you've had those conversations with the county highway department at this point?
I will tell you that actually at this point we have not had discussions with the highway department of Tompkins County. Again, for when I've worked on state roads and I'm following the same procedure for county, is when whether it's a county or whether it's a state or whether it's a local road, we would have to apply for a curb cut permit, right? And those are what I would call ministerial permits, right? It's like applying for an electrical permit. Are the plans that you're presenting up to code, and whether that's national electric code or a town code specific? As long as we're complying with local law, we're supposed to be getting an electrical permit. Similarly, as long as we're showing that we're following Tompkins County specifications on here's what a curb cut should look like. If we see X, Y, and Z, we need a culvert. If we see MNO, we need a type of swale. Because we're using an existing entrance, we're very much not expecting any significant change. We may have to widen the access path. I don't know that off the top of my head right now, but that to us is a similarly later part of the phase, just like when the DEC will approve the SWIP, we would expect to go to the county department of highways for a permit there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions, comments, concerns from board members? And/or does anybody want to concisely convey, I think, what Don wanted to about the agricultural kind of opinion? Sue?
I'm not very good at being concise, but I would just like to open with a question on whether any agricultural use of the land during the project's life has been discussed with or considered, and what plans might have been discussed, if there were any.
Yes, as part of our leases that have been submitted for review, all three landowners have the right of first offer for vegetation management with a listing for preferential grazing. So that's one. I think to Chair Modisher's, I think, dismay, which we've heard off to the side, there's a very highly marketed agrivoltaic company with a base in Caroline, who we have worked with before, and they currently deploy sheep on some of our other solar arrays. So we're working to make that happen. I will say that one of the key linchpins for us to be able to promise that a shepherd would be able to work on our sites is the insurance requirement. I don't know every farmer, but I think not every farmer would be carrying around $1 million worth of property and casualty insurance. So we need to that's a prerequisite for us to allow anyone on our site, and that's just not anyone we can work with off the road. So our arrays have been part of the development. They're the test cases for the American Solar Grazing Association. So we want to do this. We are interested in do this. We are reluctant to make it a condition and a requirement, just for those reasons. It's hard to work on these things. 15 years down the road, something might change, and I can't even predict what might change, but it might be not reasonable to say, hey, these guys said they'd keep sheep on there, or they do some level of agrivoltaics, but some notable market change could come and it would not be helpful to us. So we've seen the law's preference for sheep grazing, and we're trying. So we're just trying to hold off on making it an absolute requirement for 30 plus years.
So I think sheep grazing may be one part of what Don's interested in, and we maybe later we'll get to my feelings on this, which are different than Don's. And So I'm just at this moment going to convey what I think Don would like to convey on it, which is that I think he's concerned about the soil. He's looking at it the way he put it. It's 100 acres of land that's been around for a couple hundred. Well, the land's been around forever, but it's been used for hundreds of years as agricultural land. The soil needs to be healthy. It needs to be used. He wants it to be used as basically as still as farmland, the way I can see it, the way I think. So someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he wants it to be used as solar panels with farmland in between. Is what I'm reading, because he doesn't want it to be sort of wasted. He doesn't want it to be the microbiome to be changed too dramatically over a 30-year period. And I think that that's very important to him, because it's an agricultural site, and he wants it to be. He doesn't want it to become an industrial site. Does that what y'all sort of think he's advocating for?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you worded it very well. So just so you know, Chet, that Don's not here tonight. He wanted to make sure that information was conveyed to you. I think you've heard it. I think you understand it.
Yeah.
I also, yeah, I understand Don's point of view. I also understand that you can't require something to happen in perpetuity, especially something like that, like grazing or certain agricultural activities. So to me, your intent to try and do the best you can sounds great and satisfies, what I feel is the intent of the law as well, solar law. So.
Understood. If anybody wants me to bend their ear on the other research we've done on different forms of agrivoltaics, many of which are dead ends, I can use the board's time for that. I don't know if that's useful given the hour and all this other stuff, but
no, I think that's good, but I might just be a sucker, but I kind of think that you're an earnest man and that you care about this sort of stuff. So I don't think that you're going to come in there and turn it into like a Chernobyl type situation. But I understand, I empathize with Don, like it's the earth doesn't get better with us ignoring these problems, it's nice to be proactive. There's this little part of me that wonders like how you can go in and make somebody turn have a bunch of consenting adults turn this into an agribusiness. I'm not really sure how we can make you do that. I'm not sure that we should make you do that, but I empathize with his question. But I do sort of trust that when you say you're going to do the best you can, I might be a sucker, but I do kind of think that you're going to.
Well, I would say, Mr. Barber, Don's comment to aerate, post construction is a very sensible and useful request that we're happy to yield to, because that does help the microbiome and sort of the natural topsoil, get a little air, get a little rejuvenation. And I can't claim true agricultural specialty, but to me, I do believe letting things lie fallow for some duration of time is its own, it is not, let me just say it, as I understand it, it doesn't diminish the value of the land if one lets it lie fallow. Whether it's additive, I can't answer that. So I'll leave that comment there.
Great. Any other, because of, at the next meeting, I think the hope is to have the public hearings that we need to for process, but then to, try and approve the project if we can. So if the other board members have, I feel like I don't have any further questions or even concerns about what's been submitted and what the responses are. But if any other board members do, we should bring it up now so that they can be addressed before the next meeting, whenever we can set that for.
I guess my just because I don't know as much about this as I should. When you say approve the project next month, that you mean that there's like a final approval. Like we won't be saying to Chet next month, if only we had one more piece of paper. Like is there like is that like a final approval or pending or what does that mean?
So I mean, Chet, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like him and his company feel like they've submitted everything they can possibly submit to us and that we would need. And that they've been responsive to any of our requests. And so if there is anything else that we want to see from them, we need to voice it now. Otherwise, there's no reason for us not to approve it next month. Or next meeting, I should say.
Or at least hold a public hearing.
Yeah, I guess
Public hearings, if something comes out of the public hearings, obviously that may open a can of worms, who knows? But at this point, we haven't heard anything else from the public, so, fingers crossed.
So maybe if I could just ask the question to be phrased, to have the answer phrased in the positive rather than negative. Does the board have all the information it needs to take a vote at the next meeting on, something like the resolution that has been shared around?
Yeah.
Yep. Jean, Jack.
I do. I feel comfortable. I've read everything twice, and I feel very comfortable.
I do as well.
Okay. Straw poll, Sue, how you feeling? Good? Okay. So the only wild card is potentially Don, Bruce.
Bruce is here, I think.
Is Bruce here? Bruce?
There he is.
Any input? Any input?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that too. I agree with everything that was said about Don. I'm sorry, I apologize. It took me forever to get on. I didn't have any video or audio, but here I am. My only other thing would be if you can't use agricultural plantings, would you use like a conservation type of planting for wildlife and things? Or would it just
So part of the specification for the grass cover is a pollinator friendly mix. That is in the soil and grading plan of the site plans. So it's a grass choice that hits a few decent elements for us, that it's pollinator friendly and grazing friendly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Going once, going twice. I'd like to move on.
If the board does decide to host a special meeting before the next review board meeting, just want to double check, the minimum time that the public has to be notified of the public hearing is 14 days. So it would be a minimum 14 days from when the board tentatively decides to host a special meeting.
14 days. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
so minimum 2 weeks plus a day if the board decides tomorrow. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, Sue?
Just a quick note, I don't know if it's been addressed anywhere and I've missed it about any special training for EMS and the fire department in Speedsville. Do we have notification from them that they're aware of the fire hazard or special conditions that might be associated with the project?
Right. So I spoke to Ed Klopp last week, and we've done this before, but the short answer is the plan is there as part of the commissioning plan, is to bring the local emergency responders in. There are Knox boxes, which are fire personnel's key system to get in. The engineers of Colliers, they designed it all to state code for the appropriate emergency vehicle access with turnarounds inside the facility. So spoke to Mr. Klopp, meant to get him the full brief before this meeting, but we didn't have we didn't connect. But he's aware. We're ready to brief him. It's standard protocol to train the local emergency responders of here's what that is, here's our emergency action plan, and here's the prime contact for the site in case of emergency, so the solar professionals can come in promptly after the emergency responders, who again may not be, they'll have the broad training but not the specific.
Right.
As you might.
Ed, I'll just mention, Ed Klopp is here tonight in the town
Oh.
hall.
Ed, hello. Sorry I know we were meant to talk. Sorry to not follow up on that.
Great. Are we ready to move on to the next project? Yes, okay. Van Leer lot line adjustments. Are the applicants here?
Can you say that again, Craig? I missed that. What lot line?
The Van Leer lot line adjustment. What have I seen? Have I seen anything on this?
I think so. 16.
I'm sorry, I
He
missed
provided
it.
some great
Oh.
reference, so.
Okay, why don't, you wanna come up? Why don't you come up and just walk us through what exactly you're doing? Oh, because they're building, yeah, I remember this. You can probably use some of these, you can describe it.
Basically, we're just shifting our mutual boundary between our property owners.
Can you just speak up a little bit so we can hear you?
Sure. The purpose basically is to just shift the current lot line over to give 16 of my acres to them, and basically that's it. Not give, sell.
I was gonna say, that's very generous of you. They're like, yes.
Got it on public record?
Well, no.
Let's go for more than.
No. Okay, let me. Sorry, I looked this up briefly, but I totally forgot what it said as far as the lot line adjustment.
I've got the laws.
We were talking about.
Yeah,
I think I have that. Are you looking for this stuff here?
yeah, review lot line adjustment, perfect. So,
None of this really
No.
matters, but basically it's not affecting anyone around us, and I don't think it's gonna change anything for anybody except for they're gonna own 16 acres that I used to own.
Doesn't create a small lot.
Okay.
person ID, lines. So, did you guys, did the board members hear what was being discussed? Do you understand that the lot line in between the two parcels is just being moved? Any questions or concerns?
Did everybody get the maps for
Because,
this project? Okay, good.
yeah, they look familiar now.
Yeah.
So this, technically, this is a sketch plan, which means, we can discuss it, we can ask questions, we can tell them what else we might want to see. But nothing's gonna be decided tonight, and part of that is because ultimately, you have to get it surveyed, assuming we say, yeah, it looks good to us, then we'll have to see the survey of what the existing is, what line's moving, how much, and then what the new lots are gonna be. And as long as that's submitted, I don't think we need anything else.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And maybe others have already thought of it. do we need to consider development units and how they might change? No? So I haven't looked at it with that in mind, but 16 acres is 5 development units.
We're not doing it. It's just for trails.
Just
Right.
camp land. This is our existing property right here that you can see is right next to. This is the new. This is our existing property here.
Yep.
38.4 acres, so we're just adjusting this lot line this way. In the same configure, you can see the configuration.
Right.
Right there.
I guess my question would be blind to your intentions. And just going by the process of distributing development units, would your intention be to say that the new lots would have the development units associated with that acreage?
Most of it's slum, so.
Yeah.
You can't
So-
really
There's
develop.
no
slum.
electricity back there. So.
No electricity, no,
Okay.
no nothing,
Just-
no utilities.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't. So. Besides the surveys, I mean, just a written description, which you've already done, but just, include that in the application. And is there even a fee?
No,
No fee, right?
no fee.
So then we should, and there's no, as far as I can tell, there's no seeker, there's no
No.
public hearing or
No.
anything like
No.
that, so we should be able to just do it at the next meeting.
Basically, it's a checkoff.
Assuming you have all, the survey done, so getting this on the survey schedule might be the hardest part.
I've already been in touch with Ian Sheave. So.
Oh, okay, yep, okay. Then, yeah,
Awesome.
it should be pretty easy.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the board before?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Pretty simple.
Thank you so much.
Well, we want to pass a resolution approving the lot line adjustment, would that be appropriate or not necessary?
The lot, no, we can't approve it until we have the survey.
Oh, okay, all right.
So we gotta do it the next
Do it the
meeting.
next
So it can be
meeting.
done in one meeting, but
Yeah,
it's gotta be the next.
don't have a
meeting.
survey yet,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Did I give you all one of these in the package? I know I intended to, but I just want to make sure. That was, I think, one of them.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, I'm gonna add it to it now.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Okay. Sorry,
what was that?
Yes, Bruce, Mark, did you say that they should convey the number of buildings that they, or structures that they can have on the piece that they're taking on? Or no?
Maybe it's a non-issue. I was just trying to make sure we have clarity on development units going forward. I don't think it's an issue because.
Is this something that the seller is supposed to decide, or is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, our verbal discussion on that is that they have no intention to build anything other than a couple, like little cabin type things. Does that need to be formally stated somewhere? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it's the same thing, yeah.
I would say just in your narrative, you could just say something as simple as no development units are planning to be conveyed.
I don't even think Bigfoot would live back there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an issue.
But I guess I'm definitely getting too wonky, but, so you'll have each of your parcels will have a new acreage and they will have, a potential maximum number of development units associated with that acreage. I think sounds like what you're thinking, like.
I've been assuming that that's automatic and that, once it's sold, they then can do what they want with that.
Yeah. Okay.
The number of lots that go with that acreage.
Perfect.
I think that sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, great, thanks.
So Yeah, so,
Don't overcomplicate.
what's that?
Don't overcomplicate.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can definitely overcomplicate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Thanks for
you.
coming.
All right, the last thing that we have on the agenda is the concurrence with Caroline Town Board as the lead agency for the environmental review of the town broadband project. Jean, did did you write up a resolution for that?
No, I didn't, but I,
Mark did. Oh,
It's in the agenda, I said.
I thought I saw it, but then I didn't, maybe it was on it's on the back. Huh. So resolution of January 7th, 2005, concurrence with Caroline Town Board as lead agency for environmental review of town broadband project, whereas the Caroline Town Board has declared its intent to be lead agency for environmental review for the town broadband project, and whereas the review board has been identified as an involved agency and issued notice of intent for determination, therefore be it resolved that the review board does hereby concur with the determination of the Caroline Town Board as best situated to evaluate seeker impacts regarding the town and its unique environment and the fiscal and social impacts the project may produce. And further be it resolved, no further action is required from the review board. Motion that we accept that resolution, pass that resolution. Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Excellent, passed. Any other comments, concerns, things you want to bring up? Otherwise, I'm going to move that we adjourn.
we want to see if we can schedule a meeting, of public hearing.
Yeah, okay, let's take a look at calendars.
I think the earliest we could do one would be Thursday, the 23rd of January, because the 22nd, there's already a meeting in town hall.
Ooh, Thursday, 23rd. I could actually do that.
I could do that too.
I could also do that.
Wow.
You can do it.
What?
Look at us. Look at us.
Now, that's enough time before the meeting, or 14, yeah, okay.
Yeah, 14 days plus 2, plus 2 days, so. All right, so let's set the next meeting for January 23rd.
And I was a little, what was the incentive for us to do that? Or the incentive for them was that there were some like tax credits that they need to get?
Yes, we could very well lose this project. And because of.
Oh,
not
I'm all for
having
getting them tax credits from the state if we can.
Right, and they were afraid of running out.
Well, in the end, I mean, the 5 million they're putting into the electrical grid is nothing to sneeze at either.
Exactly.
Insight on that, we could.
Or just real, the tax breaks, it's an incentive from the state, so it's called like a block incentive, and so they allocate a certain amount of megawatts to the block, and there are projects all around the state that are going through the process, and they are getting allocated a portion of that block, and you can watch in real time on NYSERDA's website. There's just a bar graph, and it's going down. And so as soon as we get approval from this board, that night I will be
That
applying.
qualifies you.
Well, once we
Once we get the letter from the board, we will then take that to NYSERDA and get our megawatt block grant incentive. We'll get an allocation. And so that's kind of like the ticking clock, is to make sure that we get the approval and we get our application in before that runs out.
Okay.
Which is why we're being so needy.
Sorry.
Apologies and
Yeah.
appreciativeness for.
The project can't be built without the incentive. Unfortunately, it does not pencil.
Jesse or Mark, can somebody send a notice out tomorrow?
Yes, so this will be a notice for a public hearing on the
23rd.
23rd. Yep, we'll get the notice sent out tomorrow. Publication.
And it's let's call the public hearing for subdivision and for site plan review.
Site plan review and special.
And
use
special
for
use
all
for-
three.
Yeah,
And so today's the 7th. And we have to, it has to be published 14 days before the meeting? Is that right?
well, I don't.
What it often says is post a paper record for
Are-
at least 2 weeks prior to the meeting.
Published?
Yeah.
So what our official newspapers, the Ithaca Journal, usually there's a handful of days
Okay.
before it will be published. That's what I'm nervous about.
Well, doesn't it only have to be, so when we had our first public hearing for this solar siting law back in August or September, we had a public meeting that we corresponded about. And you mentioned to me the only notice that was needed was just on the town website.
Oh,
So can we do just the town website to get?
well, we can do it on the town website.
Right, that's
certainly.
14 days and also get it in Ithaca newspaper.
We can do both, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And hopefully the
So we
14
can put our
days
town announcements.
will qualify because it was on the website.
Okay, it would. Yeah.
Yeah, well, from our previous correspondence.
Oh, okay.
that does
Okay.
qualify.
That's good news.
Well, we'll do both.
Thank you.
We'll do both.
And then, yeah, I guess the public hearing will happen, public hearing on the 23rd, and we asked the board to also attempt or try to hold a vote on the three as well.
Theoretically.
I will
Up to
try.
them.
Thank you, Craig.
I will try.
Guaranteed.
I'm just, some of our laws have different. The longest lead time for the public hearing is 14 days. Some of them are actually shorter. But I
Most
don't
of
remember
our
which.
public hearing notices, the standard for public hearings is 5 days for.
Yeah, I was
law.
gonna say, some of them don't.
For the zoning law, it was 10 days, if I remember correctly.
Subdivision is 5 days.
5 days?
Yeah.
Subdivision, okay.
But there is at least one that's 14 days, and I don't remember
Huh.
what it is. That's why I'm going through the
So we'll
laws
just,
now.
we'll just do, I think it is a
So-
citing, we'll just do 14,
Yeah.
that should clear it up.
Right,
And if
that's
the,
why.
And is that, and that's articulated in our.
I know it's in the solar siting law, I can
Yeah.
pull it up, but
Interesting, okay.
if we think that's the longest, then let's just bank on
Mhm.
going for
That's
the longest.
right, that's why I was doing
And
that. But this,
I'll look at that.
and if the board is not able to hold a vote, could we do it the first Tuesday of February, which would be the next?
well,
meeting?
yeah, we're gonna have to have that meeting anyway. because
Anyway,
they're
yes.
gonna be
Yeah.
there.
Only the hearing requires notice, the vote could.
The vote is not.
Yeah,
Or
vote
whatever.
doesn't matter.
And then section 239 for the subdivision law. In our proposed resolution for the vote. The section 239 is a condition, so can the board vote on the subdivision law? With the section 239 being a conditional approval? So like,
Oh, 239 review?
Yeah, 239 review.
239 review.
I'm not sure that we
See,
can.
that's what I'm worried
because-
about too. I wanted to ask that.
Because I'm pretty sure that our, I don't know,
think so.
they're all different laws, so I need to look through them all, but. I thought one of them had to have 239 review done. And I think it was a subdivision.
I think that's true, and that's why I'm saying is
Minor
if it's a
subdivision.
conditional approval. Does that count as it's just being approved with the condition that a 239?
I don't know.
Yeah.
States the local law, local projects, come on.
It's not really approved by all conditions.
Application to be Tompkins County Planning for the review pursuant of. Oh, actually, well, I don't know, where are you at in as far as an agreement with the county for not needing 239 reviews? Not there yet.
For actually for the minor subdivisions, they're
Yes.
giving us expedited. So like the last one was less than a week. So I think these are minor subdivisions, so we should be able to get them done quickly.
But they've already gone. Yeah, but all of this has already gone to the county already. Is it a different review? Is it a different 239 review for the subdivisions, a different 239 review for?
Yeah.
For each and everything?
Well, the 230 subdivision has, I don't know, yeah, there's 239 review for minor and major subdivisions. And then there's 239 review for the siting.
But I mean,
Are they looking at different things?
yeah, as the subdivisions were
I would
part
have
of
to
the
ask
initial application, so
They just
were they not?
do it
yeah,
all at once.
Is it just one
I'll have to
review?
ask them.
Okay, let's get some clarity on that.
Yeah,
And I'll correspond with Mark before the January 23rd meeting to get clarification on the 239 reviews.
okay,
What is needed and if we can do a conditional approval,
okay.
if that's a possibility.
Or, I mean,
We'll just see if we get those 239s in before
Yeah,
Yeah. All right, I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
Second, all in favor? Aye,
Seconds and
excellent.
thirds.
See,
Thanks,
see everybody, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.